Take control of your financial future through real estate without all the hassle. Partner with my company, CF Capital, the premier boutique real estate investment firm operating in the Midwest and Southeast U.S. CF Capital's focus on investing in people and elevating communities sets us apart, providing passive multifamily investment opportunities with attractive returns. Enjoy tax advantages, stable cash flow, and capital appreciation while making a lasting impact on people. Visit cfcapllc.com or click the link in the show notes to begin a relationship with us and explore leveraging our best-in-class team to achieve your financial goals. Don't miss this opportunity to join the powerful investor tribe at CF Capital. For the committed, there's always a way. In our $19.5 million raise, we had a couple days where, I kid you not, we had over $1 million worth of committed investors that said, you know what, time doesn't work for me. I saw a big headline last week and I'm just out. And, it's like, oh my gosh, we can either focus on, wow, we have 3 weeks to go and we just lost a big chunk of, what we thought was committed to this deal, or we could focus on, there are solutions, right? Focus on the solutions, not the problem, because you get what you focus on. Elevate Nation, welcome back. This is Tyler Chesser. I'm so thankful to have you here. And I'm blessed and grateful to be sharing with you a recent talk that I gave to the Raising Money Masterclass with my friend Ruben Greth, the host of the Capital Raiser Show. If you have not listened to that podcast, it's one of my favorite podcasts. Ruben Greth is one of my favorite people on the entire planet. He is a service-oriented individual who is helping people raise more capital for their deals. And ultimately, I was blessed and grateful to sit down with Ruben and the folks at his Raising Money Masterclass event recently, a couple weeks ago, and give this talk. And it's really about raising more capital. And, in my opinion, and from my experience, in many aspects, raising more capital, providing more opportunities for others to join you in your pursuits of real estate, it comes down to your mindset. It comes down to your belief systems. It comes down to the energy that you bring to those endeavors. It comes down to also building trust and playing the long game. And so I want to share this discussion with you in this kind of solo podcast and this talk with you, because I think it's going to provide tremendous insight into how you can step into being an elite capital raiser yourself, or how you can understand, what may be attracting bigger goals to you, or what may be repelling larger goals from you, whether you're aware of it or not. And so I think that this discussion can be applied to anything that you want to accomplish in your life. But in particular, there are some specific processes, strategies, tactics, and tools that you can specifically apply towards your capital raising endeavors that I share in this discussion. So I'm excited to share this with you. So without further ado, please enjoy this solo podcast and this discussion that I shared with the Raising Money Masters recently. So without further ado, here we go. You are now listening to Elevate Podcast with Tyler Chesser. For more, visit elevatepod.com.
What city are you joining us from? And more importantly, I'm very curious about this. I would like to know, what percentage do you guys think your success has to do with mindset? Because this is something that Tyler is very passionate about. He's going to be talking about mindset and capital raising. I don't know how far down the spiritual lane he wants to go, or if he just wants to keep it simple. I would recommend just the basics, Tony Robbins, and we won't get into enlightenment or anything like that. I don't think too much, but mindset is a really huge part of it. So I'm going to turn it over to my man, the myth, the legend, Tyler Chesser, so he can drop some bombs a little bit about mindset. And, if you guys are scaling syndicators, scaling capital raisers, we're going to give him full autonomy to talk about whatever he wants to in regards to what he's learned along the way and what he thinks might be some powerful information for you guys as we scale as syndicators in this space. And of course, we're not exclusive to real estate. Some of the people here are going to be like venture capitalists and other people doing IPOs and other kind of capital raises. But for the most part, I think everybody that's raising capital is in the same boat. We all have to educate and nurture, and we have to have a very powerful mind as we process and deal with our limiting beliefs So with that, Tyler, my man, welcome,
Ruben,
dude.
I'm like,
So
I showed up
you.
here. You're playing the music. I'm like about to jump around. Like I'm so excited, and I really want to thank you for allowing me to share some of my thoughts on this amazing topic. To your point, this is a spiritual endeavor. I mean, people may roll their eyes. They may think, oh my God, this is ridiculous. But capital raising is a spiritual endeavor. Thank you so much. I'm going to maximize everybody's time right now. So let's dive right in. And I'll introduce myself just briefly. Ruben, you did a great job of introducing me. I created a podcast called Elevate, which is all about mindset, mind expansion, and personal development for high-performing real estate investors. And I believe that your success in real estate is a lagging indicator of how you invest in yourself, how you condition your mind for success. So we're going to talk a lot about that. I'm also the co-founder and managing partner of CF Capital. We are a multifamily investment company where we invest in large multifamily real estate across the Midwest and Southeast. And I'm also a husband and a twin dad. And so I'm always busy, but we just finished a $19.5 million capital raise in this current market. So I'm telling you what I'm about to share with you is exactly what I applied and what our team has applied to be successful today. And over the years, we've continued to compound on this. So what I'd like to share with you, and this is, I don't have a presentation, I'm not presenting slides or anything like that, but I want to invite every single person who's showed up today to invest in themselves to jot down some notes, because what I think what I'm going to share with you is gold, and are some, ideas for you to take things to a whole new level and beyond. And really the thought process that I'd like to start with is there's this beautiful book. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. What I'd like for you to jot down at the top of your notebook is think and raise more capital. Think and raise more capital, because it starts with belief. What do you believe is possible? What do you believe you can accomplish? Because guess what? That is the limit. So let's open up the limit and remove it. And let's go limitless. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That's what Napoleon Hill said. And ultimately, we have to start there, and we have to start to get clear and conscious of what unconscious beliefs we may have about money, because ultimately, when we start to talk about vibrating on a wavelength or this being a spiritual endeavor, we've got to get clear on what do we really believe is possible? What do we really believe about money? Is it attracted to me or is it repelled from me? And ultimately, it all starts with that belief, which then leads into an emotion, which then leads into behavior. And obviously, it comes down to serving investors. But we've got to start with a belief. And ultimately, of course, it goes without saying, I know you're probably going to talk about this a lot throughout the rest of today's masterclass, but success leaves clues. You've got to model success, follow a proven process, which includes things like priming investors, letting them know, hey, here's what we're up to, and here's what our brand is, and our team are experts in, and here's how we deliver returns for investors. And, here is how we're interacting with the current marketplace, and here's our experience level and so forth. You've always got to be building your brand. You've always got to be building your influence and ultimately your database and your relationships well before you need a deal. That all goes without saying. So success leaves clues. So let's not move further without recognizing that there are processes, systems, procedures that you need to follow. But when it comes to you leading these efforts and being a capital raiser, of raising more capital and raising capital at scale, it comes down to belief. And then from there, it comes down to setting your intentions with clarity, right? Where are you going? What exactly are your goals? There's a big difference between having no understanding about where you're going and having a crystal clear clarity about where you're going. And then you've got to elevate your emotions, right? You've got to vibrate on the wavelength of possibility, of, everything that you want to accomplish, rather than not what you don't want, what you don't want to accomplish, or all the problems that you may encounter. So you've got to visualize that success and hold the vision, remain steady, even when you get knocked off course. Because I don't know about you guys, but I can tell you just from finishing up that $19.5 million raise last week, we were knocked off course a handful of times. And there were many times where it felt bleak. It felt like, man, I don't know if we're going to get to our target in the time that was necessary. But I trusted the process. Our team trusted the process. Ultimately, we got where we needed to go. Some other things nuggets I want to drop. It's important to build and earn trust with investors. Ultimately, they're investing in a relationship of someone that they like, that they know, that they trust. And so you've got to build and earn that trust over the long haul. And ultimately, these are long-term relationships. So now we're bringing the belief, we're bringing the possibility, we're bringing the energy that is attracting opportunities for folks to invest with you. You're not selling anything. I think we've said this 1,000 times, but it deserves to be said again. We're not selling anything. We're offering an opportunity. And so what you're doing by building and earning trust, one investor at a time, is you're actually scaling referability. And when you're answering questions, when you're asking great questions about what are your intentions, what are your objectives, what are your goals, right? Because, in many aspects, what we're talking about from a scale perspective is, hey, we're building a brand, we're building influence, we're building possibility. But then it all does come down to one-to-one relationships. At least that is how it works for us. And in many aspects, when we raise capital, there's two different approaches. It's kind of a shotgun approach where it's, here's the opportunity. And then there may be more of a rifle approach to where it's, hey, let's talk through, how does this impact you? How does this impact your goals? What questions do you have about the opportunity? How may we be addressing certain concerns that you have? And as you're going through this rifle approach, and we found this to be very helpful and very applicative while we're designing systems around the rifle approach, because, if you're talking to hundreds of investors, that can be extremely overwhelming. But you've got to make the right calls. Everybody talks about dial for dollars, right? Dial for dollars. And it can be very valuable, no question about it. But you've got to make the right calls. So you've got to get more sophisticated. You've got to get more intelligent about who you're speaking to and who you are having conversations with. But you've got to bring that belief. You've got to bring that energy. You've got to bring the vibe, the vibrations of the wavelength of the possibility, but also recognize that your deal may not work for everyone, right? Find the right investors. But also when you encounter problems, right? There are problems everywhere in our business and real estate and all of these things. But of course, even in capital raising in particular, there are problems. Folks that committed to your deal drop out at the last minute, or maybe you have a handful of folks and maybe you've lost a tremendous amount of capital that you thought you had raised that all of a sudden are no longer involved in your deal. So you can either focus on the problem or you can focus on the solution. And what I would like to impart to you today is focus on the solution and find the solutions. And here's this note right here will change everything for you if you really own it. For the committed, there is always a way. For the committed, there's always a way. In our $19.5 million raise, we had a couple days where, I kid you not, we had over $1 million worth of committed investors that said, you know what, time doesn't work for me. I saw a big headline last week and I'm just out. And, it was like, oh my gosh, we can either focus on, wow, we have 3 weeks to go and we just lost a big chunk of, what we thought was committed to this deal. Or we could focus on, there are solutions, right? Focus on the solutions, not the problem, because you get what you focus on. Looking to elevate your marketing and sales? Look no further than Sharp Wilkinson. As a unique agency specializing in data-driven strategies, they immerse themselves in your organization and maintain a hyper-responsive orientation to your needs. With a focus on tangible growth, their use of data ensures confident decision-making. Don't miss out on this opportunity to grow your business. Experience the power of data-driven marketing and sales with Sharp Wilkinson. Visit sharpwilkinson.com and take your first step towards success. Don't forget to mention that Tyler sent you. And the other thing too is, as we encounter challenges, as the train gets off the tracks, you've got to continually check in with your energy. Are you attracting abundance or are you repelling it? Because if we're not careful, we start to feel lack. We start to feel problematic. We start to feel all of these feelings. Well, guess what? Other people can feel that too. And, there's this level of transference where people can feel confidence or they can feel lack of confidence. They can feel courage or they can feel timidity. They can feel clarity or they can feel confusion. So you want to check in with that energy and become a magnet. You got to check in with your beliefs about yourself, about your deal, about the market, about money in general. Are you bringing a needing energy or are you bringing a giving energy? Are you giving an opportunity? Are you needing the close, right? These are big differences. You got to check in with your energy. And as I mentioned earlier, raising capital is a spiritual endeavor. You must vibrate on the appropriate wavelength of service. In my opinion, ultimately, and I had a great conversation with Vinky about a week and a half ago, or maybe a week ago or so. And ultimately, no matter what religion you subscribe to, spirituality to a large degree is about service. It's about giving to humanity. It's about listening. It's about being abundant and allowing abundance to flow through you and flow through you to other people as well. And, the other thing too, is when we talk about this rifle approach and the shotgun approach and really going out there to find investors and offer them this amazing opportunity, be willing to acknowledge when a deal isn't right for a particular investor, and don't waste your time on folks, who are maybe you're overcoming objections to, and ultimately they just have another objection. At some point, it's okay to move on. It's okay to recognize that everyone is tuned into this radio station called WIFM. What's in it for me? If it doesn't meet their objectives, move on. Focus on the long term. Even if you feel like, man, I really need to close this investor to get to where I want to go, recognize that money is abundant. It is unlimited. And if somebody doesn't work out, just recognize that, you don't have to have every single answer in every single moment to still accomplish your goals. And I can tell you from experience that it's happened. And sometimes you just have to trust the process. Sometimes you just have to trust and believe that it is still possible and that you will find the right solutions. Focus on the long-term, relationships, and don't beat that dead horse. And ultimately, it's also about a decision with a deadline for every investor. I think that's one of the reasons why, deal-specific capital raises work very well, and you can almost raise more capital than you can in a fund from time to time, is because there is a hard deadline. There's a closing date. There's all those things. We could certainly, debate that whole concept, but I think decision with a deadline is an important and powerful tool that you can leverage in addition to the belief, in addition to the clarity, in addition to the vibration that you bring to these relationships. But I want to share a few things. I know we're getting tight on time, and I'm trying to pack as much value in here as possible for everyone who showed up and investing in themselves. But amazing. In conclusion, here are a few things that I've learned. We're in an extremely challenging environment to raise capital, but you can still raise tremendous capital if you apply these principles. And a few things that I learned and I saw in practice is that it may be tough, but you are tougher. You can do hard things. You can embrace uncertainty, and you can trust that you are committed to figuring things out. You mentioned Tony Robbins, Ruben. He said, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably deal with. And I don't think I ever really understood that until I'm, now on the other side of, some tremendously challenging projects of raising capital in a tremendously volatile, economic environment. You got headlines left and right, convincing investors that they should be bearish in every regard, and they should just be fully in cash, and, they should run for the hills, and you've got to overcome tremendous amount of uncertainty. And so that's what's going on today. But obviously, as you're focused on the long term, there's going to be different levels of uncertainty, but remembering that the quality of your life is in direct proportion with the amount of uncertainty that you can comfortably deal with, to me is exciting. So we can find comfort in that uncertainty. Alternatively, I want to invite you to be open to the idea that it can also be easy and effortless. I don't want you to forget that, because even if we bring the belief that we're willing to engage with uncertainty and challenge and problems, and we're willing to hold that vision, there are times where it can be easier than you would have ever imagined as well. So I would like to invite you to be open to the idea that it can be easy and effortless, but remain committed to your outcome. Remain committed to owning your beliefs. Guess what? You have to choose to own your beliefs. And there are things that you may encounter when you start to observe and you check in with your energy. Am I bringing a scarcity energy? Am I bringing abundance energy? Where some of those things may have come from, and recognize that maybe some of that stuff was owned subconsciously or unconsciously, things that you didn't choose to own. But you have to make the choice now to believe in what is going to serve your future. And, ultimately it's all about believe and achieve. Watch your achievements compound into more reference points about what an even bigger capital raising future could be for you. So
Oh
you gotta
my
first,
God.
let's look. I'm going to finish up here. Trust what is possible and then prove to yourself by committing to do whatever it takes. Ruben, what do you think, my man?
So what happens when you mentioned transfer of emotion, transfer of confidence? I think that's a huge part of this capital raising game. You talked about Napoleon Hill. You talked about some other guys. Love it so far. I'm curious about this, man, because like I had a couple of family members die. I've had some limiting beliefs. How do you deal with life happening in the middle of this business?
Man, that's a really good one. I think it's all about resiliency and looking at problems as gifts. You know, it's really hard to do in the moment, especially when you have, you know, really challenging things like that. I actually had a death in my family as well during this most recent raise that I was referring to. And, you know, I tried to not look at it as being a victim, like, man, my whole world is just, you know, piling down on me, because that is the easy default thing to do. And maybe it's not the easy thing to do, but it's the average thing to do. And what I've tried to do over the years is really just own this belief that, hey, I'm not a victim, but I'm a victor, receiving the gifts of circumstances. I'm receiving, you know, that life is doing things for me and not to me. And so while I may not know it in the moment, there's a bigger reason why things are happening at this point in time. So, you know, it doesn't happen overnight, but these little mantras, you know, a lot of people who maybe aren't in our world, you know, they might roll their eyes when they hear stuff like this, but I'm telling you, man, these mantras, they come up to be extremely valuable when you have these types of circumstances that want to knock you off. But you know, the other thing, here's the last thing I'll say about that. When we have those type of problems, in my opinion, it's like, all right, this is a game, this is a test to show the universe how committed I am. And you know, that to me has also been serving.
That's fantastic. We're going to open up for Q&A. We probably got time for one question before we bring on John Kasman. Anybody got something that they want to ask Tyler directly? If not, I will ask away.
And a reminder to post that in the Q&A section, not the chat, because we can't see it as well. So post the Q&A if you have a question.
So there is a question, Ruben, in the Q&A.
Yeah, go ahead. Ask it.
So it's from Paula Nichols. She's asking, great content, belief, intention, energy, and trust. You mentioned you make the right calls. What are practical ways that you can vet those?
It's a very nuanced question, a very good question. You know, what I've seen is that there's kind of a difference between working harder and working smarter, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what I'm referring to, because we can just bang the phones all day and it's like, hey, I'm dialing for dollars, but I'm calling all the wrong people. I'm calling all the people who don't have any money. I'm calling all the people who don't have any interest in doing the type of deals that I'm raising capital for. I'm, you know, calling the people who have no interest in my markets. I'm calling the people, you know, whatever. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So I think it does come down to a little bit of an understanding of who it is that you're speaking to. And, you know, when we're scaling, right, a lot of this is about scale, but I believe scale comes down to one-to-one relationships. Ultimately, it's truly understanding. There are certainly tools, there are certainly systems, and you can build a team to really understand this. But, you know, you've really got to reference, all right, well, what are their objectives? What did they tell me before? You know, maybe I have a system of capturing that, or maybe I have a background or relationship with these type of individuals to be able to say that. But, you know, I think it kind of comes down to that. And there may be times where you call people and say, look, I know this deal is not for you, but I just am looking for advice of who do you think I should be speaking to? You know, there are times where that type of, you know, conversation is more valuable, but it's a little bit of a nuanced question. It's a tough answer, but I hope that provided a little bit of value.
That's awesome. That's great stuff. So if anybody wants to connect with Tyler, what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, go to elevatepod.com. If you want to listen to the podcast, you can engage with me immediately when you're done with this, you know, this masterclass today. But you can also send me an email, tyler@cfcapllc.com. I'll put that in the chat here as well.
Thank you for listening to Elevate. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to elevate your results by taking immediate action on what you learned. For more, visit elevatepod.com.